And then the next one we have the most questions on is guest occupancy. The requirement is up there for people to read. The first question I've got clarity on is the fire capacity, the seating capacity is based on the fire marshal's listed capacity, and just confirming that. Joe, is that what you understand?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Julia, do you have another one in this area?
Yeah, so the second question we're getting are customers waiting in the lobby and waiting area. Do they count against your capacity for service? And I suppose we also might want to, if you've got any thoughts or best practices about the waiting area, might be a good opportunity to discuss that.
Yeah, so the first part of the question about, do they count against the 50% maximum? It's just going to depend on how I think that, the fire, I'm assuming yes. Off the top of my head, I'm assuming yes, because that's part of your building. It's all continuous. And one of the intentions, keep in mind about this requirement is to minimize congregating of people and exposure. And so I would say that they would, guests waiting inside. The weather's getting nicer, so maybe some people may wait, outside, and that's a business decision. That would not, I'm sure, count against the building occupancy. But what still needs to happen, though, is 6 feet separation between parties. I'm sure, the grocery stores have been practicing this for a while, where they have signs on the floor, tape. It will be a little bit difficult, I know, to keep parties 6 feet apart when they're waiting, and so I can't speak exactly to how you will do that. Like I said, tape, signs, those are the best ways, but they definitely, the groups have to be 6 feet apart while waiting, just like they have to be 6 feet apart while dining.
Okay.
And it's going to be a lot of, I think, customer education is going to be really important in letting them know. But again, a lot of people have had experience with this with the grocery stores, so it's nothing that's totally brand new anyway.
Great, thank you.
Joe, next question is on the outside capacity. This does allow for some flexibility with outdoor seating, but the health department I know is involved with that. If someone wants to utilize part of their parking lot or another area that is available to them for outdoor seating, how does that impact this requirement, and how do they work with their health department to make sure that's allowable?
That could bring into play other agencies, perhaps. Just to make sure there may be building issues. There may be requirements for you to have a certain number of parking spots based upon your building size. You got to keep those into consideration. The health department's not going to know all of those. I would also say that keep in mind that, again, the purpose of this is to minimize the number of people that are in a facility. You got to think about restrooms as well. And so the more people that you have at your food establishment and trying to use the restrooms is also going to create problems with congregating and being in close proximity to other people. So if you essentially triple the size of people that you can serve because you have outdoor seating, you got to think about how that's going to impact what other facilities they need to use on the inside of your restaurant. So keep those in mind. We haven't had that direct question either, so that's something that may be coming. We'll have to think about further. It definitely would not affect your 50% capacity inside. I can see that, and so that's true. But again, I think we got to be careful of the intent of this, which is to keep your customers and your staff safe. And the more people that you have, the more risk that you're going to have in general. So, and keep that in mind. Also, you also have to keep that in mind if you're going to try to, I guess we'll get to this question probably later, but if you're going to try to keep track of who's used your establishment for potential contact tracing later on, think about that too as you ponder how many people you want to allow when you first open in phase 2.
Okay. As people have questions, what I'd love for you to do is, as you see the requirement come up, type your questions in this area to make it easier on Sam to keep track of what should be asked here. And a lot of questions are coming in.
Anthony, I think before we move on from this question, we also might want to touch on if you have alcohol service and you're thinking about outdoor seating, or extending that outdoor seating, you're going to need to think about how that impacts your liquor permit as well. And just so the folks on this webinar know, we're also working with the Liquor and Cannabis Board to set up a follow-up here to talk about how these rules are going to impact your liquor license and floor plan as well.
Okay. Julie, do you see any other questions on guest occupancy and the 50% and/or the outdoor seating?
Yeah, we do have some questions about how the guest count impacts events. And so this might be a good time to clarify that large events are not allowed in phase 2. There's still the 5 person gathering limit in phase 2. The questions are about, do guest counts include event attendees? Or does this count include staff, vendors, et cetera? And I think we want to be real careful on how we communicate events and event sizes. We're still at the 5 person limit. Anything else to add to that, Joe?
No, that's exactly right. We've had a lot of questions about events, and in phase 2, events are really not. You can just pretty much say events aren't allowed unless you can have a 5 person event, which would be really tough to pull off. So right now, we're just in the initial phases of getting back into business, and so definitely follow that guidance. That events right now are pretty much not allowed.
Okay, Sam.